what is the best ways to get people hooked in the first 5 minutes. Nobody is stopping nobody from doing that whatsoever. So first, I need you to take your mind out, right? That being integrable means that there's less opportunities for you, right? There's only less opportunities when the devil giving them to you, but God is abundance. I think people almost look at the devil as if he abundance, and it's like, nah. We create our own tours, independent, right?
Right.
But our funnel first is what? Right. So let's say we operate on Instagram. Most of this is just understanding the science. All right. I was just on a call earlier with a young woman. She wasn't she was a woman that was, I ain't gonna say she's old, but she was with her husband, and I was talking to a couple that just do a podcast and was explaining how she entered one of my AI courses, right? And it changed the way she thought about AI, and it actually got her over the last few months to start a new AI company, which is an app that she started, which is this interactive app that allows you to have these conscious awakened conversations with other people. It actually voice clones, right, you as well, and it allows people to be able to then hear themselves back and speak to themselves in a positive, affirming light. And of course, this is the way I want people to utilize AIs for some particular betterment. And the reason I bring all of that up is because that wasn't even possible at some point in time, right? But it's possible now. And so you have to really, first of all, be grateful for the time that we live in where integrable souls can now be able to make money without having to sell any part of themselves. But it does go to your creative agency, because one thing that I teach in that particular masterclass that she was joining is more so the philosophy of AI and how to think during this time so you can use these tools, right? So if I'm creating a show and it becomes one of the most successful shows in the world, but I don't have to sacrifice the way I speak, the way I look, and who I am. How do I do it? I do it through partnership. I do it through creativity. I utilize the tools that exist in the now, and I eliminate all excuses. I figure out how to monetize that, and I learn how to master each platform, right, for what their particular use can be. So we can get deeper into the conversation, but I think first of it is going into this mindset of making sure that you're not thinking from this place of lack because you have integrity. You're thinking from this place, actually, there's more I can do, right? But it's just making sure that what I want to do, I'm not looking to be blessed by the devil, but instead I'm looking to be blessed by God.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been told is just like the way, especially from my lady, like she'd be like the way you even just communicate it sometimes or talk about it is like you said, as if there's lack in being integral. So I appreciate that echo as well, and I know that, like you said, I'm rooted in, like you said, God being the full abundance. So just to narrow in on that question, what would be the first step you would take as far as going into business with creatives and specifically like musicians in the hip hop space, and creating a media platform for them or a point of distribution? What would you think would be the most effective way to approach them with that?
1 second, let me make sure that this clears off the screen so you got a good shot when you do it. I just got off the call with the platform. So, when we put together a tour, we usually have like 100+ meetings of like working together with different people. And this platform is about how a better way to release music, right? To where artists don't have to get into 360 deals, right? Maybe you want to release music to where you drop a small video and maybe you want it to be time released. And for fans that want to buy it early, they can. And then maybe if they buy it early, then it automatically gives them a ticket to a tour or more unreleased music that you have, right? And all that music would then be connected to later on go on DSPs if you want to do that. But the whole goal was, how do you give artists more control of the whole entire process? Not just creativity in the studio, but creativity when it comes to strategy, right? Maybe I want to drop one of my songs from my album that I have coming up, and I want to do it to a bundle pack, right? Um, or I want to do it to where, let's say, everybody who buys a ticket to the tour, you understand me? They first do it through buying the album. The album then gives them a code to be able to get a free ticket to the tour in the city that they choose. Right now, I'm making my music the gateway for access to other things, right? And therefore, I also get to price my music at what I believe is worth. Because if I go to the studio and I have to pay a engineer 25 to 50, sometimes $100 an hour, right? Then I have to pay for the studio time, which can be hundreds of dollars per hour, right? Or less, depending on the type of studio, right? Then you got to do mastering, and then of course you got to do marketing, branding, you have to buy the clothes. You got to put in a lot of money just for you to go there and say, well, Apple or iTunes have forced, right, that this product, no matter how much time, money, and energy I put into it, that no matter what, everybody gets to experience it the same way. Meaning you can't change the price, right? You don't have any power over these things. And to me, that doesn't make sense as an artist, right? Knowing how much work goes into the process, why would I allow somebody else to determine my price? That's allowing them to determine the value. And I think it's a disrespectful model to artists. And I think that we're living in a day and age where, there are smarter ways to go about this. So I give you another strategy I did. It's just bootstrap strategy. I've sold my album from anywhere from $44, $19, $200, right? From people who bought it. But what I did is I put the album on Untitled, which is this temporary platform that you can upload your tracks, right? It gives people the ability to kind of manipulate the stems if they want to, right? And what I did was I have a private group that people want to be a part of the album making process. So now I'm just talking to my core fans. I'm not talking to the people that waiting for this thing to become Billboard charted to be like, oh, you're successful. Because a successful artist is one who can satisfy their core fan base, right?
Right.
And so what we did is people then DM me the word album, and they can do this to this day, and then they'll get a link to the album, and then they can decide what they want to pay, right? Similar to the Nipsey Hussle model. And then we'll put you in a community, we'll give you the access to it, right? And then you're now able to listen to it. So now I've been able to make money, which help pay for some of the studio fees, right? And I think that that makes sense for artists, but all that did require was taking a step back and getting a little creative, right? With stitching together different platforms. And I think that if people are real fans of your music, then they don't mind buying and supporting and investing into the artist.
Yeah, and as you're saying this, one thing I want to like highlight to the people who gonna listen to this is your stuff got to be good enough for people to be willing to do that, and you have to actually have some order to like how you distribute and all of this. But what we can do on my end, just as far as like what I was asking, we gonna create a system. That's what we really need to do. We need to create a system, probably like even a SaaS or either way, we're gonna have to get out there and show people why it works. Like, okay, this improves the quality of your experience. It gets you more money, and it's a better experience for you as an artist as far as like maintaining your ownership and who's able to take on your project. So that's my work, is making it appealing and making people see like, oh, all right, this is a wave.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear no artist complaining no more.
Yeah, because like you said, it's all out there, so it's not like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like, which I don't want to hear nobody complain about nothing. When you complain about anything at this point in time, it's only because you're not willing to do the thing that solves the problem. That's it.
Right.
There's always going to be somebody in your way. There's always going to be somebody trying to be competition. There's always going to be capitalists in the world, right? It's never going to be 100% people with good intention. But what
Right.
about your own intelligence? See, there's different levels of people that exist on this planet. You have superminds, the architects, the intellectual, the intelligent class that sets the rules for everybody else, right?
Right.
And at the bottom of that, you have the ordinary class. This is the ordinary man, the ordinary thinker. They don't think in systems, right? They don't think too deep on things and too intellectual. They're reactors. They don't control what they see, or they are controlled by what they see. And you have a lot of people who are ordinary, but now we have extraordinary tools to where you can broadcast ordinary thoughts. And what happen is that we have a collective illusion, and there's this book called Collective Illusion, and it speaks towards that what most people truly believe, right, is not the what we say, right? So there's let's take let's take the MAGA base for that example, right? There's people in the MAGA base who don't truly believe in all of the extremes, right, that Donald Trump may do, or even the base, but they think everybody else agrees with that. But if you have that conversation with them privately, right, then you're gonna be like, wait a minute, 60 to 70% of people actually
Right. Right.
But the collective illusion, what it does is it takes the craziest thoughts that's usually on the fringe, and those are the ones that get pushed up, right? Those are the ones that get pushed out there to society, and they become ideas that people circulate, and they think everybody else is thinking that, and it's not true. And so you really want to scale back first and learn what you truly think. And you want to be able to um, properly critically think about topics and ideas, because I don't think that a lot of people are truly learning anymore, right? Like we have, again, I really appreciate the sister who shared the story of her building out, and I have a couple people, a lot of people who built out AI companies and apps that went on to make a whole lot of money from taking one particular course that I put out there. Why? Now, and I say that for a reason. There's somebody else that was listening to this and they say, Keys, why didn't you just teach it for free? Because even if I did, it's not the point of it being free, it's the point of whether you would execute. See, there's a difference between the people who pay. That's because they value something. And they also know that if I'm paying my money, I'm going to execute to get the value out of it. The people that want it free, they just want to have the option to listen. They want to have the option, but will they really execute? And how do we know they won't? It's because you already have the option. You can spend your time studying, utilizing AI, Claude, Perplexity, any one of these tools. You can go on YouTube University, you can go to Harvard and take free classes, but you ignore all that is free. So you can complain about the things that are behind payment gates. And that's only because you need to keep having an excuse of why you're not progressing. And there's a different reality with different minds. Some minds only see problems and some minds only see solutions. Some minds see locks, right? And some minds see hacks, because reality is different for everybody depending on your level of intelligence. And so the beauty of this is that if you want to enter the intelligent class, you can, but it's going to require some work. Anybody can feel smarter, right? But who wants to evolve and do the work?
Yeah, and that was gonna get me to my next question, because I see the work that you're doing. I've seen it since the shifters. I've seen it into the BWO Goldwater, the connections you've made all the way up into this point. So it's like,
Hey, tapped in, man. You just set the resume for a second.
yeah, bro, like that's what I'm saying. I've been here. That's why I've been
definitely
able
seen
to
you before a few times, brother.
give thanks and praise. You know what I mean? That's what you said. It's a testament of the work. You feel me? It's a testament of the work. And I wanted to ask how you vertically, or not even using terms like vertically for people who might not know what that mean, but how did you integrate all the businesses and now have a vertically integrated business where, okay, boom, we listen into the content on social media, top of funnel, then we might fall into the Substack. Then from the Substack, we might watch a YouTube video, get a little high level conversation. And then next thing I know, I'm at a tour. I'm buying ahead. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I done got all the way through now.
Yeah. So first of all, you're a great observer. I appreciate that. Because most people don't see that. There's, first of all, like I just want to take a step back. So people look at 19 Keys and say, Keys, you do a lot of different things, right? And to me, it's really all one thing, right? I have one particular goal, and that's to push the culture forward, right? To help push a new culture. And I've been stating this from the beginning, right? I want to enlighten the masses. So imagine me saying that in 2016, but you don't know what does that turn into. You just see a young man with a dream, with a vision, right? Then years later, you see him with a show called High Level Conversations, where you're able to reach a global audience and have conversations that allow people to think and build, and that allow us to create a new culture, right? And so you have to understand the through line of all these things are connected and is one single source, right, of inspiration. I didn't talk about technology just because I talked about it because it fits the vision, right? And so if we want to push our people into the future, but we also want to make sure that you're able to go with your original frequency intact, meaning that you still have consciousness, you still have soul, you still have spirit, you still have ancestral connection and reverence, but we're able to go into the future with all those codes within us, right? So I'm not just going to tell you about technology. If anybody's ever been inside one of my master classes or challenges that we've done, you know, I spend hours breaking things down because I want people to get into the philosophical understanding so that you can literally think for yourself. And there's literally nowhere on the planet Earth that you're getting that type of value. Now, when it goes to architecture, I remember I was made fun of early saying, man, I'm an architect of thoughts. I'm a thought leader. People are like, what the hell is that, Keys? What the hell does that mean? And what I was trying to figure out was what is a title that is robust enough that fits my journey, right? As a young man, how come you can aspire to be a philosopher, aspire to be a thought leader? We find it acceptable when men aspire to be rappers, right? Or some CEO because you seen some white man as a CEO, right? We find it acceptable for us to take on titles that are not our original ideas. But when a man comes up with his own story, especially when you come from St. Louis and Oakland and you grew up in the streets and you see the dysfunction of things and you say, I actually want to take a different route. I've seen, you know, uncles smoke crack and get killed. You understand me? I got brothers that's in the penitentiary. You feel me? I know cats that didn't die. They didn't make it through another day. And I'm like, all right, what is one of the best things I can do as a black man? Let me build myself up and be the example of what I don't see in the world. Right. And so for me, that's 19 Keys, right? Somebody that exists to showcase a different blueprint, a different archetype. And I've made on my learning journey, right? I've made mistakes. I've picked wrong partners, right? You talk about the BWO. That was probably some of my greatest lessons because I feel like God was preparing me before he puts a greater blessing in my lap. He has to see if I can handle what I'm already given, right? He had to increase my level of discernment, right? My level of understanding, my level of empathy. He has to give me, right, those solutions. He also has to take me through bad relationships, both personal and business. He has to put a mirror to me and say, see the ugliest parts of yourself, right? And then he say, if you're willing to learn from these things, then I can take you to that next stage. And so every time you see me conquering, going to another stage is because I'm learning through it. I work in venture capital. I just for the first time today, let me tell you, right? I just for the first time today got my first actual corporate sponsor for an event. Over the last 10 years, I've been doing this.
Right.
Have I had a single sponsor? You can't find me nobody who've accomplished what I've accomplished that didn't do it under sponsorship, advertisement deals. Nobody has done that before, right? And so I'm glad we've been able to, over time, establish partnerships. And it's so funny how these things come about. But back to your point of everything has to be intentional. When you are somebody that wants to be independent, when I show up on screen, I'll give you some game. Let's say Instagram. I've seen Nikki breaking this down, right? Nikki that do all the AI, she's incredible. But I like the framework because it's how I use it as well. When you're on Instagram, Instagram posts or carousels can be used to find new audiences, right? So when you're dropping those posts, they're showing it to new audience. And the reason they want a carousel, because carousels gives you more at bat, meaning that you get more opportunities for that carousel to do well. Because they're going to show the first slide. Maybe somebody don't like that. They're going to show a new person the second slide. They might show somebody else the third slide, right? Because they're trying to curate interest. So a slide allows you to put multiple interests or post in multiple ways all in one piece at a time, right? Then you have trial reels. A trial reel allow you to try things out before you put it out on public. So Instagram allows it to see by a small group of audience, then it shows them, right?
Right.
You have your stories, right? Your stories are you feeding existing audience, right? That's your core. In stories, you have to understand the science that if you may be dropping a, you know, a poster, a flyer, but they're not going to show as many people because they have an algorithm that's able to detect to know that you possibly are selling something or that these particular visuals don't do as well. So they're going to show a smaller size audience this picture. But if you're making content, right, to where you're literally telling a story and it's called a story for a reason, then they're going to show more people that. So instead of me putting a link on the picture, I might say comment so that it can go to the DM so it can show it to a lot of people. Then I have a call to action and I'm able to convert that into a sale. Then we throw Snapchat on there. And I'm explaining all of these is because I want people to understand how hard it is as well. That none of these things are by accident. Everything is intentional. You have to be a scientist if you want to do these things correctly. And I see a lot of people just jumping out there trying to create content, trying to create a business. Are you willing to learn the science? Are you willing to learn the science? Right? I'm a master at creating community and world building like none other on the planet Earth.
Right.
Then we have our community tab. We have almost 40,000 people in there. I have a text list, 50,000 people I can text out. Then we have email lists, hundreds of thousands of people on the email list. Email still work, text still work. Just got off the phone call with Ryan Leslie, the CEO of Superphone, to put together a more dynamic profile to make sure that we can reach our people so that platforms don't control distribution of my audience, right? Then we have YouTube. So on YouTube, how come I dropped a picture of me and Yaki sitting in a hyperbaric chamber that I had to fly out to St. Louis to go do, right? And that picture got 1 million views. But I already had me a preview, a trailer ready to go. But why didn't I drop the trailer first? Instagram is prioritizing that. So I know that if I drop a picture, it's 2 black men sitting in there like we in a hyperbolic time chamber like Goku and Vegeta. You understand me? That's something that is of interest to the algorithm. New people see that, they're interested. Old people see that. Then you have SEO. So I write my title in a manner that if somebody is searching this, it comes up as well. So now we have amplified interest, right? Now everybody knows that the show is happening. Now I can drop a trailer. Why? Because there's context for it.
Yeah.
Drop the trailer. Now they want to see what's inside the trailer. Well, inside the trailer, it's not just one thing we talking about. We going through a whole super wellness facility. You understand me? We going through, he's showing me my blood plasma. He's showing me my cells. He taking me through different rooms where there's magnetic, you understand me, machines that are pulling tumors from the body. You understand me? Showing me photo biomodulation machines where I'm doing infrared therapy. I'm down there naked on the goddamn episode. I didn't even know that was going to be all up in there. I didn't get to see the final cut. But we doing push-ups. We jumping up around. Like, it's a real documentary. It has multiple scenes.
I
And
told my that shit look like 60 minutes. I said, Keys hit the 60 minutes on it.
and again, I want people to understand this part. I'm doing that out of my own money. You know what I'm saying? Like, Yaki has actually been banned from YouTube multiple times. So if we thinking, you know, this thing just goes just because it goes, no, they try to downgrade his content. So now we have to figure out intelligent and creative ways to also still get it to go in the algorithm, right? While he's being shadow banned because of his name and his platform associations. So for me, it's all these things to navigate, but there's also this journey of first time he's on the platform, already a successful young man. I connect with people before they blow up, not after. I have chased no trends from AI to blockchain to NFTs to community building to socials to financial literacy. No trends. I set the trends. And there's a history through line. And that's because the intention from the beginning was always the same. The rest is strategy and campaigns, right? And so I can teach anybody how to world build if they're willing to listen and learn. I can take you through a coaching program on your platform and consultation. It's going to cost you a pretty penny because if you want my time, you 100% got to pay me. You understand me? Because I want to make sure that you're actually going to take the information, execute, and learn. So yes, we're going to use Substack, emails, automation, mini chat. You understand me? A company that matter of fact, that's sponsoring us, they're Bolt AI, which is an AI checkout company. You understand me?
What?
So everything has to tie in, all right? Everything has to make sense. And so we build the blueprints that don't exist so we can build things that don't exist.
Yeah. Now you used the word that I was gonna ask for my last question, which is, so I'm building this brand called Still Growing, just affirming people like whether they just starting their journey or they've been in it for 10 years. You know how independent artists are. There's a new one every day, and there's somebody's dad or uncle or auntie trying to put out a song and all of that. So that's why I wanted to create that narrative. I just cut my locks from 13 years and I wanted to restart because I'm like, all right, I got more room to grow. I got more room to expand. So it's like I'm about to reaffirm myself and just show y'all like I'll give all of this up and pop back out on you. It's nothing to me.
Yeah,
So
love
what
that.
would how do you choose what campaign you want to lead with? You know, like you just were mentioning that you campaign and make these things make sense and show the intentionality with each segment. How do you choose where or how to start one? Is it a monetary thing? Is it a resource thing? Is it a skills thing? Where do you start at by deciding?
That's a really good question. All right, so first of all, I am not the best person at making money. I can make you money, don't get me wrong, and I know how to make money, but what I mean by that is I don't put money first.
That part.
And sometimes that's to my detriment. And you know this because I know a lot of people, they like Keys with your platform, bro. I'll probably be making 10 million a month. If I can get in front of all those people and I can gather all this community, you understand me? And why don't you do this? I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a first capitalist, right? If that was the case, my platform would look completely different. And I think that it's something I don't think that people truly understand. Like my core people that know me for years, they understand this. But it's a lot of sacrifice. So I can never start with the money first. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a great relationship with money, right? I plan on making hundreds of millions, if not billions, depending on what God got in store for me, because I think that if you really in your mind and you really on your God body, you should be able to produce as much energy and maximize that opportunity. All right. So we love money and money loves us. You understand me? So I just want to say that because I don't want to put no negative. I don't want nobody think I got a negative relationship with money. You understand me? I know somebody right now in my comments about to hit me up and say, Keys, I got 10,000 for you for your tour, 20,000 for your tour, 100,000. I just put that out there, man. No, but
Yeah.
so I start with the vision first, bro. And the thing about a vision is sometimes it takes a while for it to come to me, right? So we have we have our Savior Self, right? Tour. But then why do we add Renaissance X? So I first study and I think about what is needed in this time and how does this tie back to my original mission and goal. The first tour that I did, we basically broke even. And when I say broke even, that means that I paid everybody else, but didn't get paid myself. But the goal was to leverage that, right? How do we leverage that to build a brand so that people know that it's possible? Right? People don't understand that. You go do a 10, 11 city tour and they think you just got rich. Like, no, I just went out there and gave value. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a sacrifice. I spent money from my own bank. You understand me? To do that. That means money coming in and money going back in, right? It's reinvestment. And but I think about, does this fit my vision? You understand me? Does this fit my vision? And am I motivated to do this? Do I have the will to do this? Right? And how will this impact my people? How will this impact the culture? And so if I start from that, then I have to scale out that vision. It has to be big enough, right? And so it goes into act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And so first you start off with the vision, then you figure out what is the campaign, right? So campaigns come from military. So military generals will draw campaigns, right? So you start off with a strategy, and the strategy is simply just taking a step back and saying, what is the best way to get something done, right? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's when you strategize and when you thinking, right? Then you have your campaign, right? This is something that is a much broader vision that fits in everything. So if you think about a politician, right? A politician is going to like Obama, right? He's figuring out what is that slogan, right? What is Donald Trump? Obama ran on hope. Donald Trump, he ran on Renaissance actually. He said, make America great again, meaning a rebirthing of certain ideas. Then you have colors attached to that campaign. Then you have associations you're going to add to it. You have language that you're going to add to it. You think about the platforms that you're going to utilize, right? So it is a broader vision with strategies that fit in that, but not so rigid that they can't pivot when necessary. So I start with Renaissance, and it came to me. Well, I first started with Save Yourself because I feel like
Right.
that's the time that we live in, and that what does it mean to save yourself though? Right? That means that you have to have one of those minds that are willing to execute, but then you also have to have the knowledge to know what to do during this time. So saving yourself in this time, meaning that if the world is moving faster, then you need your brain to speed up, right? That means that you need to be focusing on your cognition, right? That means that every single day when I wake up, it's not negotiable that I must meditate. That's part of my save myself, right? That means that I need to be learning daily. That means that I need to be working out, right? That means that I need to learn how to have better relationships with people because being by myself is a liability in this time. So I need a network, right? So that means you have to be intentional. That means that I need to understand this AI better than AI understands me so that I can master it so it don't master me so that I can maintain being a part of one of the intelligent class who still has the freedom to think for self, right? So we then come up with the save yourself message because we know nobody gonna save us, but we have all the capability within to save ourselves. So now we have the save yourself. I said this is the era of save yourself. Then why did we do the sub Renaissance X? We are in the 100-year anniversary of Black Wall Street being rebuilt. I ain't say burnt down, I said rebuilt. And this is a narrative that we don't put out there because we don't understand narrative warfare, strategic imagination, collective memory, right? We have a collective memory today about when Black Wall Street was burnt down, but nobody told us the rest of the story. That they threw a parade when they rebuilt it to show their resilience. Now, that's a much better story than to leave me with trauma in the body, because that leaves the nervous system nervous, right? Without the ability to act. And those were people that weren't afraid they did it again. Now, of course, you got redlining and a multitude of different things that came in and destroyed the communities that we built, but that's another story. But it wasn't that we were unsuccessful. We were innovators, entrepreneurs, thinkers, architects, inventors, scientists. That's who we are. That's our story. That's our culture. That's our lineage. And the rest of the world must respect that. So then we in a 30-year anniversary of the Million Man March. It was a time where we came in and we had atonement among Black men. So we want to bring back that again. So all right, let's rebirth that in this time with the new lessons, with the new tools in this time. And let's solve for the unknown. What is that unknown? We've been trying to figure out how do we make unity work forever. That's unknown to us. We've been trying to figure out how we make relationships work. That's unknown to us. We're trying to figure out how do we make the future work for us. It's unknown. So when you put that X next to something, it represents the unknown, and we're going into the unknown. So collectively, it's going to require the intellectuals, right, to come together, right, in a brain trust to figure out and solve for the unknown, which puts the future in our hands, puts us in control. So once I got that, and I go deep into it, I study every single Renaissance that have been done, from Venetia, you understand me, to the Moors, to Mali with Timbuktu and our brother Mansa Musa, right? And even study in Harlem and how that sparked off. So I need to be deeply ingrained and enriched into the knowledge. Then from there, I think about, okay, what is the best way to do it during this time, right? Who are the people I need to connect with? What are the best platforms I need to use? You start carving out a campaign. What are the slogans that you're going to say? It's all the science that goes into it, right? And then from there, you start architecting this world, and now you can automate. And so here's the important thing. When there's some days where you don't have motivation, there's some days that you don't want to have to use your will. And this is why everybody needs to focus on creating systems. You need a system, you need to become a system, right? I think one of the most unfortunate things that I see is that people don't really know what they're looking at. When you see a man or woman of brilliance that built great things, you should do everything in your possibility to get close to that person and learn what they know, right? And we discount that. We would spend money to go see our favorite artists and show to make us feel something, right? When we see somebody build up an empire, travel the world, change the world, you don't want to get close and learn that? You don't want to take that as a mentor? You don't want to spend as much money as you possibly can, or much time you possibly can to learn that? We don't appreciate the greatness in each other yet. We're not bowing down to each other's true frequency. We see it and instead say, how can I compete with that shit? That's a lack of harmony, right? And so I want to be able to help more people create this, but I only want to do it for those who I feel are deserving. right? And the reason I say that is because some people will take the game and only to become your competition, only to try to fight you. And the reason that we don't have this is because we are focused on capitalism. And I studied the Japanese a lot. I love the Japanese because I believe the Japanese is basically have a blueprint for the whole world, right? And they have something called harmony capitalism. Harmony
Oh, wow.
capitalism. Now, of all the times that I've been alive, nobody uttered that word, that phrase to me,
You giving me an exclusive right now. You kicking it.
right? So we didn't even get the opportunity to build, and they prioritize sustainability and loyalty, meaning that we're taught to build businesses for scalability. So we'll take a business, try to figure out how do we set up the system so that we can scale it and sell it, right? They create businesses for sustainability. How do we create a business that can last over time for the next 100 years? So that means that everything that they're doing, their decision-making framework is completely different, right? Then when they hire people, they're trying to figure out how do I keep this person loyal to the system as long as possible. So they want somebody to stay there and retire. That means that they have to make decisions that is based on keeping the human loyal, right? That is a completely different. We are not focusing on optimizing for loyalty. We're optimizing for commoditization. So
Yeah,
we are focused on making the money, but we don't care about the people. And if relationships are worth more than money, then why don't we optimize on the relationships? So if we take on different systems and think about what works for us, right? Not what we're trying to emulate and imitate. And when people raise money and they make money and they get these evaluations, all of a sudden they become heroes in culture.
yeah,
But somebody can be valued at $1 billion just because somebody with $1 billion decide that they were worth that.
right.
So they say, look, I'm going to put $100 million into your company at a $1 billion evaluation, right? And I want 10% equity. All of a sudden now there's an article that this person is worth $1 billion and their company is valued at $1 billion, and then all Black people in the world are following and bowing down to him, and it's like, why?
Right.
That person was picked by somebody outside the culture, number one. You understand me? That determined who was the winner for the culture for us to look at. That's not something we determined. All right. And it's nothing wrong with raising money because you sometimes can get quicker uphill faster by utilizing that evaluation, selling that company, right? And then on your next leg of journey, maybe utilizing that capital to do something that is beneficial. We've yet to see that in a lot of these brothers and sisters who do it, right? But it is possible. So I'm not downing that model. But the problem is when somebody makes money, bootstraps, and get themselves up to a certain point, we don't celebrate them the same way because they were not chosen, they chose themselves. Right. And so I just respect the hell out the entrepreneur that starts from nothing. I respect the entrepreneur that is second generation. Right. So we have to make sure that in the time that we're living in, we have knowledge of the time we're living in. We understand what we see. We're not controlled by these externalities that people are forcing these illusions upon us, determining what we think is great and what we think is not great. Because when we can see and know what gold truly is, then we understand the value of gold. But if somebody never told you the gold its true value, you would hold it in possession, but you will most likely lose it because you didn't know its value. And there's so many people in this culture of ours that are gold. They're
Literally.
and we act like they're not who they are, and they get frustrated because people don't see their value. And then that turns into an ego. And so I would rather work with our people before they get frustrated. And that's why I reach out to so many people. That's why as we're doing this tour, you see me collaborating with individuals, right? You see Nature Jab, you see my brother Deontay Cal, you see my brother Yaki, and then there's going to be so many other people that we announced, but it's like we're all different young Black men doing something completely different. But what stops us from sitting at the table and solving problems together? Nothing. And I've always wanted to be the one that showcased that and represents that to the day I die.
Yeah, and I want to close out by saying, when I had spoke to you at the meeting of the minds the other week, and you had created this opportunity for people to be on the podcast with the freestyle video with the sneeze. I'm like, look, as soon as we get back to the crib, I'm hollering at my mans. I'm like, yo, as soon as we get back to the crib, we gotta grab that. And lo and behold, he ain't tap in, right? And then when the offer shifted, he said, "Oh yeah, man, I thought this, I thought that." I said, bro, if you don't chill out, we get to sit down and have a conversation that we already going to the show. And then you get the conversation on top of it. So it's like, that's why I sat here patiently and ensured that I, like you said, I got what I invested in, which was myself at this time. And, you know, you mentioned at the meeting of the minds that you were looking to speak to more people about or excuse me, the only assistance or collaboration that you're looking forward to is people with taste and imagination at this point. And you know, I've been speaking to your team as far as just creating a collaboration here in Philadelphia with the Supermind at a few cafes. So I look forward to speaking to you again, and you know what I mean, raising the vibration and keep having more high level conversations, Brody, for real. You know what I mean, I'm on my way.
Salute to you, brother, man. Thank you. And I wish you blessings on your platform, right? And I wish you abundance and growth with it as well. So I look forward to seeing your journey and I look forward to working with you in the future.
All right, man. Thank you again. I'm gonna holler at you.
Yes, sir. Salute.
All right.